All right, welcome. We'll call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. All right, I would like to declare Matt Nearpass necessarily absent. A few housekeeping matters. Emergency exits are off to the side, as well as out in the lobby to the right and left. Restrooms are in the lobby area. If you haven't done so already, please sign the attendance sheet at the back of the room. There's also business cards at the back table with the phone numbers and email address for your convenience. There is also copies of the proposed resolutions. If you haven't done so already, please either silence or turn off your cell phones. And if you have any conversations that do not directly relate to the ongoing application, please take them out in the hallway so as not to disturb the ongoing application and process. As far as each applicant, there have been packets submitted with exhibits. If you're using those exhibits or you want to refer to them, just please let us know which ones they are and we'll get them up on the screen. And if they are new ones, we'll certainly take a look at them. Just let us know that they're new and we'll mark them. When you're using the exhibits either on the screen or you're talking about them, do your very best to describe what you're referring to. Instead of, if you notice over here and over there, that makes the record very difficult to understand. So use compass directions, structures, use as many words as need be to help us understand. Also, when you're speaking, or the board or members of the board are speaking, let's take turns. Not talk over each other, because Amber here is taking the minutes, and if we talk over each other, it makes her job a bit more difficult. So we're going to take our time and get through it. The other things, I think that's it. So next, I would, hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to review the minutes of August 5th, 2024. If everything is in order, I would entertain a motion for approval. If not, discussion is ordered. Please let me know.
Motion.
Thank you, Leah. A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, the Galassi extension request. Knuff, how are you?
Good evening, how are you?
Good. Mr. Tantillo was here last time.
He had the nerve to take a vacation, so he made me come here.
No, you may have to talk to him about that.
Right.
Okay, so what we had talked about was asking for some more details, and I believe you submitted them in an August 13th, 2024 letter outlining what needs to be done if the extension is granted and where you'd be in the next 12 months.
Correct.
So do you want to, if you would like, put some more detail into that or talk about that?
Yeah, maybe I'll just briefly go over the letter. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look at it. As far as the easements, we delivered the easements to the town. They would be held in escrow pending the extension being granted. Also the stormwater facilities maintenance agreement was submitted. The Mylars, my understanding, were submitted to the town back in May and are under review. So we've done what we can on that. The district extensions for sanitary, sewer, and lighting, those actually were submitted several years ago. We jogged the town to get them going on that, and our understanding is later this month the town board will consider the applications. I think they would have to schedule a hearing, so that process would take a few months to go through. But LaBelle, on behalf of the town, did review our submission that we made, I think, in 2020, and we responded to it, and I think it's all in order. The highway work permit was submitted last month. The letter of credit, back on July 11th, we submitted an estimate for the amount of the letter of credit. So your engineer, LaBella, has got to finish reviewing that and tell us if they agree with the estimate, so we know how much the letter of credit would have to be for. So Mr. Galassi is ready to post the letter of credit. He's worked out the form with the bank, but can't do it until we know how much it's for. And then the number 7 is the offering plan. We did talk to, our firm doesn't handle that. That's a pretty specialized matter. And we did consult with Nixon Peabody, who does that, actually done it for other clients of ours. And they said it would take several months to get the application in. Actually, the process, they said, was a little faster than we understood, because I had been on meetings with real estate lawyers. They said it's taken like a year and all. And they said, no, it doesn't really take quite as long, or maybe they've streamlined things. So they thought 3 months or so after, it'd take a few months, 3 months or so to get it together. And then if all goes well, like 3 months or so to approve it. So we think the April 1 deadline that we were given, we believe we should be able to make. I mean, you know how things like that go. If it's some unforeseen issue, but assuming we have Nixon or somebody like that do it, they're certainly expert in that sort of thing, should be able to put it together. And they told us, actually, they have a form that was just approved, and they pretty much can use the same form. So the only issue is whether, well, an issue, I'll say, is whether we can start site work without that. We believe that we could, I mean, really, it's a requirement of the state. We can't sell condominiums without the approval of the Attorney General, and the HOA can take title to, you know, to common areas and all that kind of thing. But we believe we could actually start site work, you know, and really technically, we didn't think it was really needed until we go to get our C of O, maybe for a building permit for the construction. So that's really up to you all whether, I mean, from our standpoint, actually, it is a little bit of a risk from the financing standpoint that we start building and then we don't get approved, but I think that's very unlikely. You know, I think if it's just, we got to go through the rigmarole to get approval. So basically, we thought we can make the April 1. If we have to wait for that to start site work, then we could then schedule the pre-construction meeting and get going. Otherwise, we could schedule, once we have these other I's dotted and T's crossed that we're waiting mainly on the town for right now, we could get going with the pre-construction meeting. So that's number 8. Once we've got the district extension approvals, we could schedule the pre-construction meeting. Actually, well, Steve Galassi's here, his brother, Chris Galassi, would be the construction manager. He's dealt with, you know, he's worked on that in that role before, but they would select a site contractor, and they would, before the pre-construction meeting. So we would have a site subcontractor who would go to the pre-construction meeting. And then as far as the schedule, you know, they can start site work within 30 days of the pre-construction meeting. And then if we went this fall, we're thinking we could finish the site work and, you know, the necessary infrastructure to enable us to start building construction, so we could start by about May 1st, obviously weather permitting, whatever the, you know, if it's a winter like last winter, maybe yes. If it's not, who knows? Hopefully August isn't any forewarning of what the winter's going to be like. But if we have to wait for the approval of the condos, then, you know, then we would start, we as soon as that's in, we would then schedule a pre-construction meeting and get going. Obviously, if we did that, there's no way we would have the building done within a year. Even if we started site work, this fall, we'd have a shot at that. I don't know, they tell me, oh, we could get it done. I'm a little skeptical, frankly, of whether we'd actually get it done within a year, but certainly we'd be pretty far along. But if we got to wait for the condo approval, then that would set the whole schedule back. So that's where we're at. And we request that the board give us this extension so we can get going on the project.
Okay, thanks. So the last meeting we had, we touched on where this has been.
Yes,
This has been going on for more than 10 years.
yeah.
And there's
I
been...
watched on YouTube, actually.
Okay, good. So I'll summarize and condense it just a little bit.
Yeah.
More than 10 years, and there's been all kind of extensions. And last time, a year ago about this time, an extension was requested, and there was an excuse or a reason rationale that was basically, look, we're having trouble in interest rates and construction workers. And I said, you know what, I last month, or last meeting, so other projects have started and finished, and there's not even a shovel in the ground. And now I'm seeing, and I appreciate the helping us fill in the blanks, and I can't speak for the whole board, but I'm concerned that you're more than likely, and you're going to need another extension, and it's going to go on. So that's a concern, and coupled in with, the code has changed. It has changed since the first time this project touched the town. So it makes some sense to say, gee, how do we know that the builder is going to apply those current standards and compare to when that first opportunity that the town got a vision or a look at this particular project?
You're talking about the building code or the zoning code?
The first time, the actual, the building code, the zoning code, all of the necessary codes and requirements that were in effect 11, 12 years ago, and now today, they've changed.
Well, I don't think it was, it has been going on that long, but and I don't know if I have my dates correct, we got turned down in about, I don't know if it was 2017, 2018, and we brought in 3-2 when we brought in Article 78, and then we reached a settlement, and the planning board approved it in, I don't know, I think it was 2018, but I may be wrong on that, something like that.
Well, the timeline says January 2019.
January 29th, okay, thank you. So then, obviously, the pandemic hit the next year. You all know about the supply shortages and all, and while Mr. Galassi is a, very experienced businessman and all, he may not be the same kind of builder as Morrell or somebody like that who's doing things all over town. But yes, they were slowed down because of, between the problems with the pandemic and then interest rates and all that. Okay, we got the message. The town wants us to put up or shut up and get going. So we are going to get going. We understand if you put whatever conditions on, if we don't meet the schedule without some great reason, that we might not be eligible for any further extensions. The only thing I'll say is, again, realistically, even if we move full speed ahead, given what type of buildings there are, I'm not 100%, we're not going to be able to guarantee that it'll be done and we'll have a C of O a year from today. But we can say we'll be very far along and moving along, and we'll be at a point where we're not going to stop, because if we got the building 3/4 built, it's not like we're going to stop.
So in the event, let's hypothetically, the board says no more extensions on this one, doesn't mean the project is done and over with. Don't you start the process all over again?
Yeah, but that took us like about 5 years to get through. Maybe we haven't been fast, but the process with the town was not fast. It took we're going to, go through a long process, and maybe it'll be shorter because it's already been an approval, but it was a very hard, long, and we process, give and take. We kept changing, cutting back the number of units from what was allowed. He cut way back from the original. The original proposal was apartments. I don't know how many apartments, but it was, I think it was slashed the number. We changed the condos, changed the number, so it was, the density was way cut back from the.
Okay, understood. If where the project is today with slashing and cutting back, which you've just described, it's not like you're completely starting over. You've made a certain amount of progress, so if you're going to start at that point, and we're working with a hypothetical that if the board decides, no, we're not going to grant the extension, you got to start at the point of submit the paperwork again. It's not like you're way back in 2017. It's more of where you've started with your drawings and plans and thoughts and ideas in 2024, and then you push forward with that.
Well, I guess I don't see the point. I mean, I didn't specifically look at this. I'm not aware of any particular changes in the zoning code that would matter. I know the building code's been updated, and we're gonna have to meet whatever's in the building code, so we can't build the 2018 or 2019 standards. We gotta build by 2024, 2025. We understand that. But I don't see the purpose of starting all over.
This application puts the board in a really precarious situation. We've had a few requests for extensions, and the most that I'm aware of since I've been on this board was 2. And the last one, we held the contractor's feet to the fire, if you will, to say, that's it. You better get it done this time, and there will be no more extensions after that. It's a head scratcher for me when the last year, asking, where are you with the project? It's like, well, we haven't even hired contractors yet, and then what have you done from 2023 to 2024? And I'm not quite sure I get what's happened in the year when we granted the extension in 23.
Right. I mean, I can't exactly answer that. I know Mr. Glaze is not here because he's been ill, but I guess he's recovering. But we did go through this whole punch list, and it pretty well hit everything. And I don't see the what difference it makes to the town if we go forward. And I believe, tell me I'm wrong, this would only be the second extension by this board. There were 2 extensions, I believe, if I got the timeline right, 2 extensions administratively, and this would be the second extension by the zoning board. So I don't know if you've done that before on other applications.
There have been, I think on the zoning board,
There was one last year for sure.
right,
I'm not sure if there was one, I mean, I wasn't involved, but I think, let's see. Second extension, see, I think administratively, there could be 2 extensions, so it was 21 and 22. So it expired in 23, so last year, the board, the first time to the zoning board, gave 1 extension, so this would be I believe, the second extension.
right. And then you're almost anticipating, and it's that safe bet is, you're going to need a third from the zoning board to push this thing across the finish line.
Well,
Or am I not doing the math right?
well, I think if we were allowed to go ahead now, as soon as the lighting district and all, they indicated that they could get the building done in a year. Would there be a few things?
Okay.
I agree that it might not be 100% finished, even if we go as fast as we can, just because of the nature of this type of building and supply chain and all that kind of stuff. So, but they're committed to going forward as fast as they can, and put conditions on that if we don't make progress, that we're done. I just don't want to be misleading that I'm positive that we would be done in exactly 1 year.
We appreciate that. I'd like to open the questions to the board. Larry, you got some questions? Comments, concerns?
This would be the fourth extension.
Correct.
And when, and I'm new to the board, so I look through all this and I say, it doesn't seem like anything happened with the other three extensions. And now all of a sudden, even now, even in the things that in the checklist that you said, some of these things, even though we met 2 weeks ago, were just submitted to the town today. And
Well-
there just seems to be I would think you guys would want to move a little faster.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened between the board or the town and you folks with that there was like a 4-year blank on one of the things. But I guess I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, we're going to be here again next year. I'll give it a 80% chance. Okay, you guys are going to be asked for another extension. And it just didn't seem to make any sense to me, especially since I think you can go back with all the work you've done with the town, just start the process over, get yourself a clean slate, and get it done in a relatively short period of time. I can't imagine the town, you've already been discussing with the town all the problems. So you've got those all resolved, and just going administratively through the process again it's not going to change anything. They're not going to bring up something that they haven't brought up before. It's possible, but they're not. I guess I just don't
Well, again, I'm not going to blame this totally on the pandemic, but a part of that was pandemic and supply chain. The last year, I can't blame it on that. But I guess, again, what would be the purpose in making us start all over and just reapply? And frankly, it was a very controversial project at the time, 5, 6, 7 years ago. We went back and forth, kept cutting back. And again, had to go to court. There were all kinds of delays from the town. So we weren't the only people that have delayed. This took a long time to get approved, and we just didn't want to have to go through that all again. And we would commit to moving ahead, and if we can't, if we don't meet these kinds of,
Wouldn't you agree with me that it's fairly unlikely you're going to go through all that again? The problems that you had with the town, and I wasn't here at the time, but the problems you had with the town, I'm assuming you've resolved to get to this point.
we did with the board that was on the board at that time 5 years ago. I certainly would argue that it would be arbitrary for them not to reapprove us, that given it had been approved, we went to court, we settled it, they agreed on it. Again, I'm not sure if there's any changes in the code that matter, but talking about delay, that would just serve to delay. If we could just move forward, there'd be less of a delay. So I guess, to me, it seems arbitrary or just pointless to make us start all over. It just causes more of a delay than if we move forward and puts everybody through the whole process again in expense and time and effort. So,
And I know this is hypothetical, but is it more of a process to go through it again than it would be to come before this board next year and the board say no to another extension?
well,
Then you'd be in the situation of you've built something that you can't complete.
right, but I think no matter what, no matter if they had a brand-new approval, I don't think you'd get through this process in a year, no matter what you did. Granted, you would get a second approval, right? So there's 2 years, but I don't even,
But if you went through the whole process again, you can get 2 years of administrative approval
right,
with I'm assuming without a lot of,
right, that's true.
so, you've got
also-
a 3-year, or
You wouldn't have to submit for the building permit until you're ready to actually build a building, so,
So that would give us more time there.
correct.
Okay.
You could start after all of the site work had been completed, or however you want to do your process.
Right.
Some builders start at the same time, that's fine, but then your building permit timeline would be more substantial for putting up the building within a year. And in worst case, you get an administrative extension
Right.
for
And then if we go to build, I guess I have a question. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask questions. But we go for, okay, we build one building, then we're going to build a second building,
Which would be a new permit.
which be a new permit, but we're not stuck with the time limit to get the second permit for the second building?
Nope.
So we could go on for, I mean, that would take a number of years, possibly.
I mean, a residential development could start and homes just don't sell and sit for a long time, but
Right,
having the open building permit is the issue here. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I understand your concern, but I mean, I, again, don't see how there's any harm and what the purpose is of not giving more time to go forward with something that's already been approved, that we already frankly went to court on to get approved, and for us to start all over, so.
As far as when you say, what's the point? At what time does then, the point is, you're taking way too long. Enough, again, I can't speak for the whole board, but it's that hypothetical, there has to be you've had plenty of time. And this is now a question for you. Is the contractor or general contractor hire any contractors, any workers, anything to show that, yeah, we want to move this thing forward? I asked that a year ago, and they said, no, we haven't hired anybody yet.
No, I mean, the contractor would be in-house. We've got site contractors but we have not, that we've got in mind, but we have not gone ahead and engaged them because we need, these other approvals like the districts and et cetera, so.
That goes back when we granted the extension in '23. Doesn't sound like a whole lot has happened for a whole year. So then it gets to that question I asked originally. At what point does it finally, the board can say, that's it, there's no more?
Well, again, given, yes, this would be a fourth year, but again, half of that's pandemic. I mean, I thought you said that, has the board given 2 extensions before? I thought you said maybe once
On
you
the-
had.
The second time the extension was granted, we gave the applicant that's it, no more, you need to be finished by a date specific. He failed to do it, and it was over.
Okay,
That was a much smaller project, and he had his own host of problems, but there was a deadline.
right.
So I'm sorry, I had cut you off.
Right.
Sorry, Larry.
We can't hear you back there.
No, hold on. Come on up, tell us who you are.
I'm Chris Galasi. Chris Galasi.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, so we're fine with it. If the deadline's going to be an issue, we don't want to be held to that at this point. I don't want to get, 10 months into a building process and all of a sudden we're not going to make it to the deadline and then we get, disapproved at that point in time and we've got to start all over again while I've got, several $1 million into it. That makes no sense. So at this point in time, it's probably better off to go through the process. It doesn't make any sense to me because I don't see what anybody gains by it. But at the end of the day, we can't, the land is sitting there, it's completely untouched. I understand maybe these other projects, maybe they'd already started building, and at some point, the town's got to say, hey, listen, we can't just leave something looking like a disaster area. This is completely untouched land. Nobody's touched it. A project that nobody wanted in the first place. Everybody fought. So now I'm standing here today, and people are like, why aren't you started? When nobody wanted us to do it. So I don't understand the impetus, whether I start today or 10 years from now. What difference does it make? The reason why we haven't started this time is the economy has been the way it is. We're at 8% interest rates on homes.
No,
You can say, listen, you can say what you want, but people there are stupid developers all over the place. I'm all over the country doing this. I consult for a company that has billions of dollars in projects going on right now. We have shut down all new projects. All we're working on is the projects we have that are currently going right now. We're not starting any new developments, nor are a lot of people. Now, there's money on the sidelines. Private equity's got to put money out there. That's part of their game. So there's all kinds of people that get enticed and build things, but people are going broke all over the country. It's insane. This is a bad time. So you think as a town, you'd be in favor of saying, hey, listen, let's have some smart developers. It's not a great time to be building residential homes right now. Building costs are sky high. Interest rates are sky high. What happens when these things come back to reality? And now what? I'm stuck trying to sell homes. I've sold homes to a bunch of people for, X dollars, and now I got to start selling for less, which I could do. But it's not fair to the people who bought the first ones. It's a bad idea. That's why we didn't do it. That's the whole process, is that the time hasn't been right to do it. We haven't touched the land, listen, we were to rip trees down and made a mess of it. I could see where you saying, hey, listen, you guys made a mess of this land, now you gotta go. Once you start spending money, you gotta keep spending money, you gotta finish. We purposely didn't. We left it the way it was. I could've taken the trees down last year, but we didn't, because the timing isn't right. That's the whole problem. We're not trying to drag it out for any reason. We could do the project. It's just not the right time to do it. So we have to keep asking for extensions, unfortunately. But now, I'm up against it, because now you're saying I gotta be done in a year, which is never gonna happen. I'm gonna build the building. It's the first building's a 4-unit building. It's gonna be built as a shell. I'm not gonna build out the interiors until they're sold. What happens if they don't sell? I lose my building permit in a year's time, and then what? Now I'm back here, and you can say, no, and now I'm at the whim of the board, which of course is a bad place to be. So if that's the case, I'd rather just say, fine, we'll reapply. That makes more sense. Standing here, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I'm saying? What difference does it make if I reapply and we start this next year? What difference does it make to the board? It's not like there's a mess up there on Church Street. It's the same land that's been there. We've actually improved it because it took those 2 horrible houses down. I'm just saying we're trying to act responsibly here rather than start a project that's just gonna sit. What happens, I start a project, sales go down the toilet, interest rates are, we're in a recession, and now I just got empty homes sitting there. And buildings, and land that needs to be tended to, and grass that needs to be cut. It's irresponsible. I understand people do it all the time. Trust me, I'm all over the place. I got people going broke all over the country doing this stuff. It happens every day. People make bad decisions. They want to make money. They're greedy. And they just keep thinking, if we build it, they will come type of thing. But it doesn't work that way. And that's why commercial paper is falling apart, the whole thing. Look around. It's only a matter of time. It's coming. Trust me, foreclosures are coming. And when interest rates start to fall, you're going to see all these prices that have gone sky high, everybody selling their houses, that's all coming back to reality. Once interest rates start to come down and supply kicks back up again, what's going to happen? Supply meets demand, prices are going to drop. No, there's been no people flooding into Monroe County and Rochester. Why are prices up?
That's not true. Ontario County, Victor.
Ontario County,
Let me
yes,
finish, hold on.
but the whole area.
I gave you your opportunity, so please
Okay.
let me finish if I could. Victor is one of the Victor Farmington, one of the fastest growing communities in the state. That's a fact. I've also seen other developers start after this Galassi project and finish the development after the Galassi project. So I don't want to hear anything about you couldn't get it done because of COVID, interest rates. And as far as interest rates go, they might be sliding back a little bit, but maybe 0.5 point, 3/4. If it gets into 6 or below 6, I'd be shocked if it's below 6. So if that's the case, if that's what you're waiting for interest rates to fall below 6, I don't think it's going to happen in a year.
We're not waiting for the interest rates to fall back. We're waiting for some stabilization.
I misunderstood. I thought you said you're waiting for the interest rates to fall
No, we're waiting
back.
for stabilization. We're waiting for the market to stabilize, to see where we really are. At this point, we never really know. At this point, we're a little headed toward recession. And like I said, I can show you people are building all over the place. That doesn't mean that it's a good idea. It's risky.
And yet they get it done. And yet,
People do it all the time and get it done. Then people go broke too. I can show you tons of people who've gone broke in the last couple of
and I
years.
can show you successful
Okay,
development.
what does that mean? So it doesn't mean it's a smart idea. Some people get out of it. Victor happens to be a hot market. Lots of things could have happened that could have turned the table on that.
Now we're going in circles.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I cut you off, Larry. Do you have any other further comments, questions, concerns?
The only other thing I have is I think you would be better off, you would have more flexibility for what
I
you're
agree
trying to
with you
do
100%.
by just starting over.
I agree 100%.
Because I think if you have to come back here even one more time to a board, you're going to be at the whim of the board. And you're not hearing anything here that's saying, hey, we like to do this 5 or 6 times in a row.
I don't disagree with you. As far as if that's the standard, then 100%, I would start all over again. I don't dispute that one bit. I don't think it makes sense, but I don't disagree with what you're saying.
That's all I have.
All right. Leah, questions, comments, concern?
Yeah, I just want to address the construction schedule. What is your process for selecting a contractor, or earlier you said that it's going to be done in-house?
Yeah.
But you do have to hire subs.
We'll hire
So
subs,
what's,
yeah.
I'm sorry?
We would hire subs, correct.
So what is the process? You put out an RFP, or you get several bids?
Yeah, we get several bids for each trade.
And how long do you advertise it for a certain amount of time? Is it a week, 2 weeks, and then
It
you get
depends.
it back?
Usually you'll reach out to subs that you know, and it's word of mouth. and there'll be some level of advertisement, but nothing extreme. We've been in the market for a long time, so we know who the players are.
Right, right.
So it'd be pretty obvious who's gonna do it.
So you get back those bids like within a week or two, I would
Depends,
say?
it won't necessarily be a week or two for bids like this, it depends on the trade. Some of it will be a lot easier than others, and some
Right.
are gonna take time.
Correct. And then when you enter a written contract with them, how long does, and I know, like you said, it's different for each trade, but how long mostly? Does that go pretty quickly, like a week or two to enter
It
a
depends.
contract?
It's hard to say whether it's a week or two. I mean, it depends on how busy they are and how many subs you're going out to, and how it's the process at that point is, you usually try to put a deadline on it as best you can and say, listen, we need bids back by this date. But listen, I've seen it a million times where they give a deadline, they don't get the bids they want, and then they extend the deadline. So it really depends on how busy the people are in the marketplace, how many subs you put it out to, and what kind of bids you get back. It's all dependent on those things. It's hard really to say that it's a week for this, it's 2
Right.
weeks for that.
No,
It could be anything.
and I understand that
Yeah,
perfectly. And then also, even once you get started and they mobilize on the site, there could be some delay. You know, you can
100%.
find some
Yeah,
site conditions
absolutely.
that delays it, and then that backs up the other contractor who has to come after them.
Yeah,
You know-
exactly.
You know, so that, and the best laid project always can get delayed by something, because
Most projects
I've
get
seen it. You know, even with doing a kitchen, you
Yeah,
see
with
that.
doing anything. Construction is you have dependent trades, unfortunately.
Right.
And so unfortunately, you get in a situation where once you have a problem or any kind of delay, it will delay things because things can't get done on top of other things. So you either crunch the time schedule and increase your costs and try to get people to work overtime and weekends and things like that, or you deal with delays and you push the time frame up. It just depends. So it's a game of trying to figure out, well, it costs me so many dollars a day to carry the land and carry this project. Do I increase a little bit of my cost if I can get it done to try to push to crunch the timeline? It's a juggling act to try to figure out what's the best move.
Right. So with all that said, and because I'm not going to repeat what Larry or Mike said earlier, but that's still, because we know how construction is, it can delay it. And I'll echo what Larry said, it's easier, and what you agreed to, it's easier just to start the process again than request this extension where the project might not be met in that
Listen,
1 year.
I'm with you 100% on how, if we're going to be held to a timeline
Mm-hmm.
where we're going to run into another extension or we lose our permit, that's not even worth the risk,
No, it's not.
okay? My argument has nothing to do with that. If that's what my argument is the fact that I just don't think that it makes any difference as far as the town goes. What difference does it make whether I extend it and start it next year or this year in terms of just in the reality of it? The land is completely untouched. No one's done anything to it. So whether I extend it today and go, or have to come through and waste the time of going through the process of doing it all over, what do we gain by that? What does the town gain? What do we gain? If we agree that we're going to do the project anyway, who gains by starting it all over again, other than just a procedural thing of saying, we don't want to have to go through the extension process? That's my question to the town, is saying.
Well, like Larry said, you have then that flexibility that
No,
you
but I'm
have
saying,
more
forget
time.
about the procedural aspect of it, as far as the flexibility. Let's just say that there were infinite numbers of extensions, it wouldn't matter, and there's nothing like that. What are, as a group, what are we gaining today by saying, well, let's go through the process again? Other than we're gonna spend our time talking about something we already talked about and go through it. So what's the gain? Like, how does the town stand to gain from that, other than potentially disallowing the project?
One could be, as much as we like seeing you and hearing this, you're not going to be here for asking for another extension. Right? So it's
But I'm
taking
gonna
out.
be here 100 more times going through this project, way more than, if I come here asking for one more extension, that's one day. I'm gonna be here for weeks going through this process again.
Arguably, you would start at a 2024 start line as opposed to now you're trying to navigate through and all these extensions and all the asking for another extension. You're going to start from.
And you and I are on the same page with that. What I'm saying to you is ignoring the procedural aspect of it, which obviously we could get past if we wanted to. What do we gain by doing it all over again? That's my point. What do we gain from that? What do you gain from it? I don't gain anything from it. If I'm going to do the project, whether I start now or I start next year or the year after that, I'm just gonna do the project. I mean, I lose money in the sense that it costs me to carry the land, things like that. What does the town gain by doing this all over again?
Well, one concern just pertaining to the building permit, all right?
Okay.
So there's two conversations kind of happening, right? There's your site plan, which I understand that our procedure is, if you don't get this building permit extension, you have to go for site plan.
Correct.
approval. And that's your concern, right? It's not so much the site plan that's concerned, but now that we're talking about the building permit, and why we would want to keep giving extension after extension and extension, is that the building is no longer going to comply with state uniform code, right, building code. So that's one major concern,
Well,
and
listen-
why we would not want to just infinitely extend building.
I
permits.
agree with that, you can't just let it build, but I'm saying, if we don't start the building process, which we shouldn't, until the site work's done, and then we have a normal building process, a period of time, say it's a year to build a building, whatever it is, now you stay within that thing. I mean, I don't see why any of this can't be worked out. I'm just trying to figure out what you have to gain by putting this off.
I mean,
don't
I would
understand that.
think on the extension, if something changed in the code, we'd have to comply. Since we haven't started,
You gotta comply
if we
with
haven't
the code.
started, we have to comply with whatever the new provision in the code
You're not gonna get
is.
grandfathered in. If it's not done yet, they're gonna make you comply.
Well, if we
with
haven't,
the
well,
codes.
if you started, but if we don't, if we haven't started, I would think we would have to, if there's some thing on the dimensions of the, the hallway, I have no idea what changed, but.
If
I mean, you're
a
the-
permit
you're the-
was approved with a certain set of plans,
Yes,
that's what was approved. So
Agreed.
you could argue
Yeah.
that that's what we approved.
right.
And for that
You
purpose, I
You could
agree.
honorably say you were going to build it to the current code standards, but nothing says you have to because the permit was approved under those.
I agree with you. And for that purpose, I 100%, if it came to, if we were talking about constructing a building, and I was saying, hey, just keep extending, I agree with you, because the codes could change.
But that's what this permit extension is for, it's for a building.
Yeah.
Yes and no, but I mean, it's for the site itself. If you want to separate the building out of it and say, okay, let's talk about let's redo a permit for the building, I'm fine with that complies with the new codes. But why go through the process for the land and the site work, which is what it is? That's not going to change.
And that's because of the way that our town code is written.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'm just saying, but
so-
it's just a lot of process.
Right.
Fred, questions, comments, concerns?
My thought coming in was denial based on treating everybody the same as much as we can. And I think it's gone on long enough compared to other places.
I don't quarrel with that. I mean, if you want to take the position that we don't want to get ourselves in a situation where we've created a precedent, I don't quarrel with that. That's a reasonable argument.
That was my thought.
Have you denied extensions? I mean, you mentioned the one where you gave a second extension and then said that was it.
I don't, for the tenure I've been on the board, I don't remember denying a first extension. I think on that, again, I'm going back on my memory, for the second extension, it was pretty tight on the conditions on what needed to
Yeah,
be done.
right.
That this is, it's, I don't want to go around and rehash the whole thing. It's gone on for a significant period of time. There is a remedy, as uncomfortable as it is it's not completely starting over, so it's not like the deal is completely dead. It's a half a step back, move forward. You don't have to actually, if you're really going to do it, you shouldn't need any extensions from this board.
Yeah, hopefully we won't need any variances either. We'd have to go, we'd just go to the other board.
Right, those are already locked in.
Yeah,
It's-
right. No, so hopefully we wouldn't need anything more. We would have, unless something changed in the code that I'm not aware of, that would impact it, we'd have to just go to the planning board, I guess, so.
All right. Let me ask the public if you have any for or against comments. All right, hearing none. I think I have a good read on the board.
Mr. Chairman, is there any advantage to them just withdrawing?
Withdrawing the,
Request?
I don't think so. I don't think it's, and for a variance, I could see, but for a request for an extension, I don't see it makes any difference if it's going in the direction I think the board is going to go in. Mr. Knopf, you wanted, any thoughts on
I
that?
don't think there'd be an advantage. There'd be an advantage to us if you denied us to state that some of what you've said, that we only taken would take a half a step back and go in front of the board and, you know, go back to the planning board and,
Yeah, my,
you don't see a big difference that in the board's view, that we could go back to that board and start at, not square one, I don't know what you would call it, but since most of the issues had been resolved and got a major head start given all the prior approvals.
I think you've been in front of zoning boards before. I think you're well-versed in the field. The board can't give legal advice. It's my understanding, I think that the boards as well, is that you have, and I use that paraphrase, taking a half a step back. I think you still can progress with the project.
Right.
You just don't have to start completely over. So that's at least my take on it.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment any more before I start running through the criteria and?
No, I mean, just that, we would have things like the district, a lot of these things have been worked out, so. All right, we understand what you're saying.
All right, so the resolution that I will be proposing is for a denial, and I will read the reasons as follows, and it should be in the proposed resolution. Number one, per an August 13, 2024 letter submitted by LRP legal representatives to the town of Victor, LRP states that another extension of the building permit beyond the current requested extension to August 17, 2025 is needed to complete construction of the building. Number two, since LRP admits that an additional extension will be required beyond the one-year extension currently being requested, reasonable conditions associated with the current extension cannot be formulated and provided. As such, granting the current extension would not incorporate appropriate criteria for the granting of further extension completed by LRP. Number three, LRP has had since August 17, 2020 to start construction on the building, and there is no substantial evidence that LRP has retained contractors to commence construction pursuant to the building permit. Number four, LRP has had since August 23, 2019 to submit a condominium offering plan to the New York State Attorney General's office, and pursuant to the August 13, 2024 letter submitted on behalf of LRP to the town of Victor, LRP is suggesting that they will wait to submit such a plan until December 1st, 2024. Number five, the reason for establishing building permit time limits is to prevent structures from being constructed pursuant to prior outdated uniform building code standards and/or prevent the need for relief from building code standards that are promulgated at the time construction actually commences. Therefore, denial of a further extension of the building permit ensures that further construction is done in a timely manner pursuant to appropriate building code standards. Number six, denying a further extension of the building permit does not adversely impact LRP, but only results in LRP seeking a new site plan approval from the planning board that better coincides with future construction plans and ensures that any site plan concerns that may have arisen due to the 4-year delay in LRP commencing construction are properly addressed by the planning board. With that, I will entertain a motion for denial
Move to deny.
and a second.
Second.
Leah, all in favor of denial, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for considering.
You're welcome. All right, let's move on to the Kyer. Come on up. I think I didn't do well with the name last time.
You aren't the first.
Well, I'm going to try again. Help me pronounce, what is it?
Kyer.
Kyer, okay. So, last time we were here, I think we touched on, that the county planning board had to weigh in on their thoughts.
You said no.
They considered it exempt, so in other words, what they're saying is that we can decide how we want. They don't really need to weigh in as strenuously as some of the other projects that
Right.
go on in Victor. All right, does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, and when we spoke last time, I think one of the thoughts that we had, or you were presenting, was that the placement of the shed, and now that we have it located on this instrument survey, really can't be seen from Fountain Hill, County Road 41.
Correct.
I think you had a photograph of your
She was
wife
standing-
standing there, and there's a berm, and,
Yeah.
all right. Anything you want to add or
Well,
talk about?
we've been discussing since we just moved here 5 or 6 weeks ago. So we don't, yeah, thank you. Well, welcome. We're looking at storage, you know, we need to, the development has a bylaw, you don't leave anything outside. So where you put your lawnmower, your wheelbarrow, your, you know, your, all those things. So we were looking for something for that. Then we look at our lot, and there's really no other spot because of the way it slopes to a V. And we've also talked about, we started with a 10 by 20, and we might even reduce it, you know, to an 18 or a 16, just because we might not need it. So that's the only thing I really want to discuss. And actually, we're only, if you draw the line out, we're maybe a foot in front of the line, at best. Isn't that what you consider the front line of the back of the house?
So you're referring to the setback. This is the front line, so it's
We're
actually the line that runs along the side of your house is
Oh,
considered
then
the
we're
front.
definitely in that.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Just for your understanding.
No, I didn't understand.
You're
what you meant.
slightly over the setback, building setback line, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily apply to accessory structure.
Okay.
You have two fronts.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. I've heard it multiple times. I still want to know what the address is over there. Anyways, that's it. I really don't have much else to say. You don't really see it unless you're driving down Claremont. Then you can turn and look. You know you're there almost every day. I think I see you there almost every day.
One of us is there.
Yeah.
Pretty much every day.
You guys love that place.
All right. Fred, you got some questions, comments, concerns?
The other thing about this structure is it's not permanent. It floats. I mean, it's just on concrete blocks. You could pick it up and move it if you wanted to.
Well, not
That's
according to the code.
Pardon me?
I hear what you're saying. The code considers that a structure, and it still has to comply with building code, building permits, and
Sure.
so it still count. I know what you're describing.
Yeah.
I have one myself.
And the neighbor across the street has one, and there's one over there. I mean,
So, Fred, comments, questions, concerns?
I don't think it's presenting a bad face. And it's, I would vote for it,
we've actually talked to
even though it's in the ditch soil.
we've talked to the fellow that's building it. We've matched the siding color, which, by the way, the last meeting we had, $50,000 worth of hail damage on the back of the house, and windows and roof, and unbelievable. But anyways, we've matched the color and the shape.
I think it's pretty benign, and I'd be surprised if there's a complaint.
Well, I've talked to 2 or 3 neighbors, and that nobody has a problem. And you've sent letters out.
Well, that's my thought.
Okay, Larry, comments, questions, concerns?
I really don't have any questions, but if I can just go off task for a minute. What is the bird?
Oh, you like my bird?
There's a bird in the corner, and I'm just curious.
We call him the Pope because he's the big cardinal. My wife had it at our old house, and we brought it, and We put it up there.
Okay, thank you.
It flaps in the wind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to see that slide that was right before this, because you went quick by it. So, that's the,
That's the lot.
that's the lot. Oh, okay, okay. So the location of the shed is going to be where you have
other
it
slide
on
shows it
on the
better.
next slide. So that hasn't changed since last time. It's going to be at the same spot. Okay. I don't have any other questions.
I think we had touched before, but the shed is not going to be placed in any kind of drainage swale.
No, the swale's behind it and to the side of it. It's not going to be a problem.
Okay.
The swale lines, we touched on this too. You can draw them on paper, but when you look at them on the ground, they're way different.
Yeah. Now I got the location, at least the distance from the corner of the house is 22.
8, I think it was.
Okay. That gives a distance between the corner of the house and the corner of the shed, but it doesn't provide would be an east and west in relation to your property. Follow my question? So
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think.
you have the distance north and south, but you don't have, where is it?
Well, behind it is
To the west.
a hedgerow, and our property's in the middle of the hedgerow, so I don't have the exact measurement, but I would say it's well over 30 feet, 40 feet.
And it's currently staked?
The stakes are there.
Adam, have you seen where those stakes are? Do you have,
Yes.
all right, I'm
The
trying to,
East and west dimensions wouldn't necessarily apply to the variance because it would only if it was so far west that it was forward to the other front line of the home.
2 for 1.
so what I'm driving, usually what the board does on an approval is locate it as specifically as they can, so it's in the record, and if
I
anybody
see.
ever questions, like, well,
Yeah,
it's not what the board approved,
right.
we can go back and say, this is where you wanted it. I think the way to do that, if it's not going to cause too much problem with Adam, is don't move the stakes. Don't move those stakes.
I won't.
And as long as Adam is comfortable with where those stakes are currently located, and especially, at least we have the distance from the corner of the house, then going north, right?
So I would just be, if you're gonna put that distance in the resolution, that distance to the closest portion of the shed, the variance would be to the furthest point of the shed. So you're debating the length of your shed.
All right,
We would need to know that in order to put the right number on the variance.
okay.
So if it was, for round number's sake, if it was a 10-foot long shed, the variance would be for 32 feet, 8 inches, not 22, 8 feet.
It's 20 foot. The way I placed it there, if you're talking north, you're talking 20 plus 22, right?
If you would get a 20-foot shed,
If I
yes.
did a 20-foot
Yes.
shot, yeah.
But you. and
Well, I'm
that's starting-
talking 16, 18, I don't know
Correct.
exactly what.
So the resolution, if you want
Has
to
to
go
be
for it, would be
exact,
for 20, and if you did less, you're still compliant
Yeah.
with the setback, or with the reduction.
So we
Okay.
can do this a couple of ways. Either you can commit to it tonight on
Or we
how,
can go another month.
well, it's not a month, it's, the next meeting is September 3rd. You come back, say, this is the size shed I want.
Yeah,
If you need a minute, you certainly can,
I can talk it over with my wife.
But if he,
or call phone a friend, sure.
Yeah, okay.
excuse me,
Do we get $1 million when we're done?
No,
Mr.
but
Chairman.
go ahead.
But if he says 20,
And I do
he
it
does a
last.
smaller one,
Is it
it
compliant?
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Right, that's
So, but he
correct.
he's not gonna, he's
20 is
talking
the
about going
max.
from 20 is the max
Okay.
down, so he could
Yeah.
probably,
yeah.
If we couch it as a shed,
20 would be 42.
but it's definitely going to be 10 by 20, with the 20-foot being the maximum length.
Right.
You comfortable with that, Adam, as far as Ending everything, at least enough in a resolution to give you enough information on where the shed is and, okay. All right. So you don't have to phone a friend, you're good. All right, any other thoughts, comments? It was a good thought. All right, anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application? All right, hearing none, unless you want to add something else. You good? All right.
Thank you.
Let's go through the criteria. Number one, an undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of an area variance. Justification. It is a corner lot. There is a sizable berm that separates the applicant's property and Mountain Hill Road, County Road 41. There was a photograph submitted last time that depicts the applicant's wife, and it shows the size of the berm. The applicant had staked it out, which was, again, helpful. The maximum size of the shed is going to be 10 by 20, and the maximum length being 20 feet. The HOA in that neighborhood, as per the applicant, indicates there's no outside storage.
First off, time out. There is no HOA. It is.
Can't
Come on
hear
up,
you
come
while
on
you're
up,
sitting.
come on
I'm
up.
sorry. You have to come up to the
Come
microphone.
on up, can't hear you.
I'm sorry. There's no HOA.
What
It's
is
just
it?
the town put out certain bylaws, or the development put out
Deed
certain bylaws.
restrictions? Deed restrictions?
Deed restrictions,
There we
yes.
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
better word.
All right, so the deed restrictions indicate there is no outside storage. The shed will not be placed in any drainage swale. There is, the land is the instrument survey shows there's a slope in the land and creating a difficulty on where the location of the shed can go. The shed will be located 22 feet, 8 inches north of the corner of the structure, of the dwelling. Would anyone like to add anything for the first criteria?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Who owns the berm?
Is it the state or the county? No, it can't be the county. It's the county.
It's county right away. And there, I think there's some easements along that berm as well.
There's a sewer up on the berm, too.
Okay, so more than likely,
His property line ends at the base of the berm, approximately. The steep part of the berm.
right, so I think we're just going to take a timeout. So there's his property line, and that is where I'm pointing to. That's where the berm is.
That is correct.
And I think it's a reasonably safe bet that seeing that's County Road 41 is that County of Ontario
Probably owns it.
probably owns it.
Okay.
Or has the right of way. Okay, we're good? Anyone else on the first criteria? Second, the applicant cannot, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Largely, this is a corner lot. And due to the topography of the land, the applicant has arguably placed the shed in just about the only place he can find level ground in his yard. Would anyone like to add anything to the second criteria?
No.
No.
The third, requested area variance is not substantial. Again, it's a corner lot, and as indicated in the first criteria, the justifications should be repeated. Anything on the third criteria?
No.
4, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The primary reason, and justification rather, is the shed will not be placed in any drainage swale. Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. I would also like to, let's put this in the first criteria, that the county planning board has indicated the requested variance is exempt. And no one spoke for or against the application. Would anyone like to add conditions or additions to the criteria?
No.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Larry, any seconds?
Second.
Second, Leah, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Good luck. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah. No more hailstorms, please.
No, I can't promise that,
My
but
car's destroyed too, by the way.
okay, next. Oh, here's another. Boaster?
Beaster,
Beaster. so
Michael
sorry.
Beaster, 7622 County Road 42.
Okay. And the county of Ontario, with their referral notes, didn't have a lot to say on this one either, so that gives our board the latitude to make a decision without a supermajority.
Sounds good.
You submitted an instrument survey with the location of that's the leach field,
Yes, sir.
and I think that's what we're looking for.
And I also, I sent a letter of support to Amber from DGA Builders.
Right, we have that letter dated August 6th.
Correct?
The substance of that is that they support and have no objection to the shed in the proposed location. Is that fair to
Correct.
say?
Correct.
Okay.
And then you had a previous letter from my backline, Heritage Packaging. That should have already been in the package, correct?
Yes, that was the first, no, not that one. You had that submitted at the last meeting.
Correct.
Anything else you want to add before the board asks you maybe some follow-up questions?
So I brought my shed salesman out to the property, and they are recommending that I add 5 feet to the sideline setback. So I don't know if that would delay this process. I hope it doesn't delay this process, but that would take the side setback from 9 to 14 if the board is agreeable to that.
Not sure I follow you.
So for the side setback, I was originally asking for a 9-foot setback, and now that would be 14 feet, so not as close.
Instead of 9, you're okay with 14 side setback?
Correct, so that's an accommodation, making it farther away from that side.
Okay. And the rear setback is the same?
Correct,
Let's see, 1 second.
So that's the west side? Setback we're talking about?
so it would be the east side, the side setback. I originally asked for 9 feet,
Oh, east side, right?
and then I brought out the shed salesman, and they said that I forgot to add the distance of a ramp. So I'm gonna have a ramp going into that side, so that adds 5 feet to that.
Thought I understood, now I don't. So
So on
the
the,
shed is gonna,
so the shed's right here.
yep,
This is the side setback.
right.
My original ask was for 9 feet. We're actually going to push that in and make it 14 feet from the side
Are you gonna move then the whole shed?
to the
West?
west by 5 feet to add a ramp.
Okay, all right. I thought I understood it, now I understand. Oh, good. So on the rear, you're still looking for 7 feet?
Correct.
All right. Got that piece. All right, Larry, questions, comments, concerns?
I have no questions.
Leah?
No questions.
Fred?
No, this is relatively common.
Were you able to find my property this time, Fred? I think last time I was here, you said you were one property off. Were you able to find me?
Yeah, if you look through the bushes.
Oh, boy.
I didn't know there was a house there.
I'm the only house
I
there.
kind of liked it.
Yeah, we're the only house there. So,
Okay.
Well, anyways, I don't see a problem with this.
thanks, Fred.
Second. I'm looking for my notes. I know you just review for if you could summarize it. Why do you want it in that back corner as opposed to, and I see the leach field that runs off the back of the house.
Right.
So as far as other locations, you're
So there's,
tucking into the back corner because,
because that's the best place for the shed. We have existing apple trees, we have existing pear trees, we have existing pine trees. And then with the leach field, really the only place to put that shed is in that back corner. So that's the preferred place
so
for the shed.
it's really to minimize the removal of existing trees, fruit
Yes, sir.
trees, and
Yes, sir.
there we go. Thank you, that helps. All right, anyone from the public want to speak for or against the application? All right, hearing none, can move forward. An undesirable change would not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by the granting of an area variance. We'll insert first, the applicant has submitted 2 letters from neighboring properties showing no objections. The applicant has since indicated to the board that on the east side setback, instead of 9 feet, it should be 14 feet. Rear setback would be still 7. Another reason, another justification for number 1 is the leach field that runs off the back of the property heading north. There are also existing trees, pine and multiple fruit trees. Would anyone like to add anything to the first criteria?
No?
Second, the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. And copy in the justification for the first criteria. That touches on the leach field and the trees. So anyone want to add anything to the second criteria?
No?
Third, the requested area variance is not substantial. The applicant has indicated he's willing to move the shed further west and only looking for 14 feet. Will be 14 feet from the side setback. Would anyone like to add anything to the third criteria?
No?
The proposed variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. There is nothing that indicates that the location of the shed will have any kind of impact on any kind of physical or environmental conditions. Would anyone like to add or comment on the fourth criteria? Fifth, the alleged difficulty is self-created. Are there any other conditions? Oh, we need to insert the no comment from the county planning board. And do we have, for the first criteria, did I indicate the letters of support? Okay, all right, good, we got that covered. Anyone want to add anything else or conditions to the proposed resolution? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve with the change of 9 feet to 14 feet.
Awesome, very good, thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Leah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for your patience and cooperation. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Do the same.
Victor Excavating.
Save the best for last. I'm Glenn Thornton with Thornton Engineering, engineer for the applicant. Pete Yerkes, president of Victor Real Estate Corporation, who is the owner of the property on Old Dutch Road and, what is it, Holland Crescent, two streets. The application is for the construction of a storage barn on the property. Victor Excavating was part owner of Victor Gravel Corporation over on Cork Road, right? Correct. But now with the different owners, Pete's company owns only this parcel, so they're trying to consolidate their operation. Currently, they rent space over at the gravel pit, and they'd like to move back here. They own a number of pieces of equipment, but typically, the equipment is going from job to job, you know, the construction equipment, the dozers, the excavators, the trucks. So they typically move from job to job, but they do haul equipment in and out of their facility. It's hauled on a long trailer called a lowboy for loading up the large pieces of equipment. And lowboys need a lot of room to spin around in a circle. So to accomplish that on this parcel requires the storage building to be placed closer to the property line than the setbacks allow. That provides a larger area to the north of the building for swinging this lowboy around and also for parking equipment there as needed. The storage building, what Pete wants to do is, there's a lot of material stored outdoors now on the ground. It's not pretty, and we'd like to get that in a building. The property to the south is also zone limited industrial. There's a large storage building on that property, so the new storage building on Pete's property will help shield the materials that are now being stored outside, but basically nobody really sees them anyhow. There is a tree line on the adjacent property south of the building, so we won't be disturbing any vegetation. The new building will be placed on an existing stone gravel yard area, so we're not creating any additional impervious surface. The 10-foot separation from the building to the south line allows us to maintain the drainage swale in that area. So that's about it. This is a 6.5 acre parcel or 5.5. There's a lot of area to the east of the office building and the parking area. Some of that's taken up by leach field. There is a lawn area, but again, that's a front yard area, as is a portion of the property along Holland Crescent. So that's what we're left with. We didn't want to put the building up towards the north side because that's a residential district to the north of this parcel. We tried to keep it away from Monroe County property to the west of the property. That's why we provided a 40-foot setback on that side.
Why
All
did
right,
you not?
hold on. I'll get you just a quick sec. You're aware this has got to go to the county? Yes?
We are aware,
Okay,
yes.
all right, so we can't make a decision today.
We understand that, but we were hoping to get a warm fuzzy maybe from the board to see what way you might be directing us so that we might be able to get an application into the planning board, just to get that into the, to the town. We wouldn't be in front of the planning board, obviously, but
For all the years I've been on the board, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say we were hoping for a warm and fuzzy.
no, we know you can't make a decision, so.
Okay, good, understood. Larry, go ahead.
You own all this property, right?
Correct.
Okay. Why did you not decide to go up?
Forward of the front line.
Sorry? No questions?
Are you good? Do you have other?
I have no other
All right,
questions.
you certainly can the next time we come back from the county planning board. Leah?
The building that you're proposing, are you putting electricity in it and any other utilities?
Just electric.
Just electric?
Yes.
Okay. And those properties, the property line, I think it's to the west, those are residential. It appears to me those are very big lots, like at least 2 acres, maybe more.
Correct, yeah.
I'm assuming the house is way in from the property line, from what I saw,
Yeah.
on an overhead map.
You saw the overhead, there's a large wooded area to
Yes.
the west of this parcel. The houses are generally further west than that.
Did any of those owners, and I'm assuming you're there longer than those houses were, because they look kind of new, did any of those homeowners that are adjacent to your property, have they ever expressed any, concern with any noise or anything, I know you're just really like taking the equipment on and off the site, you're not really doing work, but has there ever been any?
So I have worked for Victor Excavating since 1997. I've recently become the president in 2021. But during that whole time, we've had very good relationships and actually have done work for the 3 houses that are within that area. And nobody's, ever complained about noise or anything
No.
like that.
And since you've done work, those houses, they're pretty much a good distance away
Yeah, they're a long ways
from
away,
their own
yeah.
property line.
And what I will say is that we used to do a lot of operation out of there, where there was a lot of trucks just coming in and out. We had a landscape division. It used to be called Victor Excavating and Landscape. Now it's just called Victor Excavating. And we primarily do large site work. So like Glenn said, a lot of our equipment just bounces from job to job and never even comes back. So previously,
Right.
when we had the landscape division there, and we did a lot of residential work, there's trucks leaving every morning at 7 o'clock, coming back every night at 5 o'clock on a consistent basis. That's not the case since we kind of restructured how we've done work.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
I have a comment. Just, I didn't catch it in my initial review, and it wasn't part of your application, but our code is going to require this building to be sprinklered unless you apply for a waiver, which is also from the zoning board. Now, that would have had to been advertised as such, and I think we came in kind of tight on this one, so I just want to make you aware of that while you're here. So if you don't intend to sprinkler and you have good cause, the zoning board of appeals may grant a waiver for that, but I just want to make you aware. I'm not sure if that has to go back to county with that, 'cause it's not a variance.
I think sprinkler waivers generally go to the county for review?
I feel like they do, but they never really have a ton to say. But it depends. I think we send them.
Right, most of the time, I think where we've gone with this is we get our fire marshal
Yes.
from the district to weigh in on it, and some has to do with the ability for equipment to get in there. Others have to do with what is being stored in there, flammable hazard, the building material itself. So there's a whole host of things that the fire marshal weighs in on, and oftentimes the fire marshal will say, okay, if there's going to be a waiver, here's what recommendations, conditions to a sprinkler waiver that need to be met. Could be fire hydrants, could be a number of fire extinguishers, so there's a whole host of things that I can't tell you what it looks like because I'm not the fire marshal. So let me ask you this, what's your wish list on when you'd like to put a shovel in the ground and get the project going?
Within a year.
Within a year?
No,
Okay.
I mean, it's immediate. They would like to start this fall if they could,
Yeah.
if there's
Okay.
time.
All right, so it may delay it a bit, but I think you still probably could get the project going by the time the fire marshal looks at it and the county makes a review of it. I think once the application is in, then you can send the fire marshal out there for review. I don't think you'd do it the other way around.
Correct. Well, it would have come up, they have to go for site plan.
Okay.
So they can, that's going to take a certain amount of time, and you can, do the zoning board process in conjunction with, and that may just be a condition of your site plan approval, is that the waiver either has to be granted or the building has to be sprinkled.
But that waiver is granted by the zoning board.
Correct.
Because it's a town requirement, really not a state fire code requirement.
Correct.
Okay.
It's above and beyond the
Yep.
state code.
Okay.
So there would be no application, another application fee. That wouldn't be, it's an amendment to the current application,
Okay.
correct?
I'm okay with that.
So, all right, so tomorrow, either call, make your way in to zoning planning, and let them know that the zoning board code enforcement officer is suggesting you may want to put in for a sprinkler waiver, so then we can get this thing as tight as we can for you.
Will do.
All right. Fred, comments, questions, concerns?
No, the schedule that they work on is quite a lot different than the Galaxy project. That'll move.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
You'd be right out of Cork Road then entirely.
Yeah.
Somebody else might be there, but.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Okay.
Excuse me, I have one more question I forgot. Are you going to have any outside lighting around the building?
Probably some floodlights just for security purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's a planning, it's more of a planning issue. What's going in the building?
Like Glenn said, I don't know if anybody drove into the property, but there's pipe that's on the ground, snow plows, things like that. We find out that a lot of the storage that we have there, we can't organize in a good fashion as far as pipe fittings and things like that. And we're ordering job-specific stuff that we have right in the yard, just nobody can find it. So we're trying to organize it, get it inside, especially in wintertime. Once the snow comes, it covers up everything. We can't see what's out there, so we're just.
All right, so you mentioned a couple of things. I get storage of materials, storage of equipment with combustibles, whether diesel or gas, is going to be stored in that building?
There might be equipment coming in and out of it, but as far as, permanent storage in there, no.
Workers, these are the things that, as far as more for the sprinkler waiver, that the fire marshal's going to want to know is, are there workers who are working on equipment? If it's solely for storage, if you're going to, even if there's a plow in there overnight, as detailed as you can with what are you going to do with the building, and that's going to dictate what the fire marshal's concerns are regarding sprinkler waivers and what needs to be done. All right, so I would greatly appreciate that when you start talking to them, cooperate as best you can. I would like to see, unless you know, what's the length of a lowboy truck?
Overall length of it, truck and trailer, is about 70 feet.
All right, so what I'd like to see is, and this is now for this application, this is justification for why that structure is so tight to the south of your property line. And what I'd like to know is draw on that survey map a turning radius of what you need for that lowboy. How much room do you really need for that vehicle to turn around? Is that a doable thing?
Yep.
Okay. And you mentioned leach fields. If you could locate those, where are they on that map?
It is.
And again, it's a
It is
justification.
shown up front, towards Old Dutch Road.
So what we're looking for is, and I think you heard the criteria before, is there some other place that you could put this? And I don't mean to smile at it, but when you call it a shed, that's not a shed. That's a big structure. So where are you going to put that structure in some place that the code permits? Let me rephrase that. I'm not asking to show where that is. We can figure out, looking at the setbacks requirements. But justification for why it is that you're putting there, and I think you said one thing, is for the turning radius of the lowboy. That'll help. Location of the leach fields. But the justification on, can you put that some other place that's feasible? That's going to help us discern the granting or denial of the variance. Does that make sense so far?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so I think you've been in front of zoning boards before, haven't you? So you know the criteria, you know what we need to see. We don't want to pull teeth. We need the information to figure the thing out. Understood?
Understood.
Perfect.
We're
Thank
with you.
Questions, comments, concerns?
No, I think we good. Good, clear direction. We appreciate that. That's good.
Welcome. Anyone else have anything to add or comment on? Okay, I think we're all good. So we have our homework, you have your homework, we're gonna wait to hear from the county. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that you show up tomorrow for that sprinkler waiver, and we're gonna keep this thing as tight as we possibly can.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay, thanks so
Appreciate your
much.
time.
Thanks for your patience. All right, anything else before the board? All right, I do want to add, Adam and I and a group of other people have been working on we're on the solar field task force?
Solar task force.
Solar task force. So it's dealing with, there's a current moratorium that gives the town an opportunity to review the current code and get it up to speed, because solar farms, solar field, they're coming on buildings, freestanding. So we've been spending quite a bit of time on this particular project. And the theme, I think, has basically been protecting our green spaces, protecting residential areas, but the way the state has it is that you just can't completely eliminate it. It says, no, not my backyard. That's not going to happen. So spending lots of time, moving forward. I think we're getting close. We got a few tweaks and, if you will, dot the i's, cross the t's, and there will be, I think Alexis said, maybe October, by the time it's reviewed by the town board for public hearing. That's a soft piece of it. So we will keep you up to date as best we possibly can. If there's questions, see me after, and we'll give a chat. Or Adam.
Yeah.
All right, we're good to go. Anything else? Awesome, good. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Have a nice evening. Thanks so much.